call the meeting to order. Let's start with Ironwood Park improvements. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I'm going to run through the images that were in the packet on the slides just so we can collectively talk about the same pictures and that anyone watching at home can get some visuals of what we're talking about. So as you know, with Timber Creek, we got roughly 3.3 additional acres in Ironwood Park. So the Parks Commission and City Council started work on this past summer, and we started programming some of the additional spaces while thinking about what is their future projects, some things that we know, and then some unknowns too. So I'll walk through all of that tonight. So on the screen right now is the full overview. So it shows the entire park area kind of in 3 boxes. So I'm going to start north, work my way south. So top corner is a future regional lift station, which future to me felt a little bit scary thinking it was coming in the next year or 2, but from our engineering team it's probably about 10 years out. So not something that will be constructed anytime soon, but something that we need to save space for. It likely will be a small building of some type with some pretty extensive turnarounds, a gate off Monroe Drive so people don't think it's a quick slip in anywhere, just so it's pretty clear that it's city property, not to be messed with.
Can I ask a question about that? Regional lift station?
Yes.
Regional to our city.
Right.
Okay.
So takes most things west of where we are today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then both the City Council and Parks Commission said that they valued leaving some open space, so not over-programming this park to allow for some casual users. So whether that be kids playing a pickup game of kickball, I know that people use the park for different reasons, so leaving open space felt important to both groups. The center box is close to Carver Elementary, so in here there's an outdoor classroom that is slated, and then the square along Ironwood Drive is the big development piece. So there's closer visuals of each one that I'll run through, but just the overview at this point. You'll see Timber Creek is in here too, so thinking about the development here, it's a 74 townhomes. They actually applied for their first building this past week, so we're hoping to start construction to get a model up of those townhomes. So thinking about those users, Timber Creek, but also all residents of Carver, how they might use this park today and moving forward. So some close-ups of the 2 areas, the 2 more northerly squares again, the future regional lift station, and then throughout the park you'll see that there's casual seating in several spaces. So along the trail here there's informal seating, which is similar to the limestone rock that we're seeing along Jonathan Carver Parkway. Those benches would be incorporated in this park to make it feel like more of a Carver mainstay for some of our branding. And then next is the center, where I think at one point a pavilion was slated to go there, so we had electrical piped in there. We've changed directions a little bit. We can talk about that as we continue. So one of the things that we have in here is screening an electrical panel that exists there today. It's not the prettiest thing or probably the safest thing if you have kids in there. So contemplating a way to screen it, whether that be some type of shed and then with trees and shrubbery around it. Next is the outdoor classroom. So I met with Ryan Finke, the principal at Carver Elementary, just to go over this idea, be a good neighbor, tell them about the outdoor classroom, and they were really excited about it, thinking about programming and use at Carver Elementary. And then the large spot is off Ironwood Drive. So I think that we all are familiar with some of the challenges Ironwood has with parking for these fields. So as part of this project, we have 28 parking stalls. You'll notice it's a one-way in, one-way out to keep it moving efficiently. There's also the pavilion here, so thinking about the townhome residents in Timber Creek who might not have a yard or a place that they can socialize outside, this felt like a good spot to have it along with parking. So if people had things that they needed to bring from their car to the pavilion, this felt like a pretty easy walk for them. Again, some informal seating spaces. There's Adirondack chairs north of the shelter in like a crushed gravel pathway. And then as part of the pavilion, concrete ping pong table, so it will stay there permanently. Cornhole or the 4 little white boxes, so some extra amenities in the pavilion. And then a few other amenities added. The basketball court is a big one, and then the skate park, which I'll talk more in detail in a couple of slides, I think. No, I'm going to talk about it right now. So I think we all know how popular the skate park is in town, and if you know how popular it is, you probably know that our skate park is pretty outdated. The company that made it actually does not exist anymore. So if we wanted to have it repaired or upgraded from the company, it's not possible. So we're looking to change directions a little bit, moving from like a metal ramp feature into a concrete skate park, which from what we know about the community of people who use these, the concrete are a draw. It's a regional draw at this point to have a really great skate park. So we're hopeful that the area community park, we could refurbish this to be a casual skating rink. So people who want to play hockey are more than welcome to in the rink, but if you want to teach your kids how to skate or just do some casual skating, we're hopeful this area might accommodate that once the skate park is removed from that area. So,
Erin, so just to make sure I understand, they're proposing to take these out?
yes.
So that is heavily used by people on this end of town?
Mm-hmm.
So
We got skateboards, they just skate them.
just skate right here in front of City Hall, it's perfect. So we can keep going, but I want to talk about that when we kind of come back to everything.
So a couple of examples of the skate park that I was mentioning. Top right is something that would look probably pretty similar to what Carver would have. So it's in shore view, so you'll see that there are trees throughout, making it a bit more of a feature instead of just metal ramps. And then just some additional pictures from the manufacturer of the company. So Eden Prairie is another location. Bolton and Mike put this together for us, showing skate parks for that regional draw. The type of skate parks that are in the area, you'll see that most of them are similar to what we have in Carver today. So the metal ramps, generally in a parking lot. So having this new feature would likely be a draw from several communities in the Southwest Metro.
With it being like a bowl design like that,
Mhm.
do you go down into it or do you walk up to it?
You go down into it, but don't think about like the Olympics.
Right,
Right.
right. No, I know. I just, is it at grade and you play down?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So with the park, there's some extensive trails that are added, so you'll see the different loops. Something that I talked about with Ryan is that the dreaded time in elementary school when you have to run the timed mile. the pink loop would allow them that mile loop, which kids are probably hating me everywhere for that.
Not yet.
Right. But there are several other loops, so you'll see the yellow goes into the townhomes by Timber Creek, really connects that neighborhood, and then blue is a quarter mile. So if you have people playing at the athletic fields, you can go out, do a quick loop, come back, enjoy the game. The pavilion that we mentioned, so we are trying to think about ways that we can incorporate the work that we did on Jonathan Carver Parkway to carry those themes through. So you'll see that the pillars have a similar design to what we incorporated in the JCP project. So the shelter would have a counter, so if someone wanted to have a group for a potluck, they'd be able to plug in crock pots, use the counter space, and then rent as we typically do through the city right now. So let's go back to the all over page, and we can talk about questions, comments, concerns. Oh, also, sorry, the budget was included in the packet, so it was a request from the council to stay around $1.5 million. We came in at roughly 1.5 with a pretty hefty contingency. So we'd anticipate being under budget, but we like to plan for anything and everything to happen.
Questions, comments?
Excuse me. Erin, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, I have this one. Box view, so the portable toilet enclosure, if you have it in that far, do you know how far it is from the parking lot to that, roughly?
It's not far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say 100 yards maybe, max.
Okay. The only reason I mention this is that when they come to empty that with their big trucks, they're going to have to drive that trail every time to get there. And so those trails are not designed to have, vehicles on them a lot, but I mean, they come once a week, but then we're plowing it. So I'm just questioning if putting it closer to the parking lot isn't maybe a better idea. I understand because the classroom is right there, but if we're saying it's only 100 yards, do we, instead of having lift trucks driving the trails, do we put it closer to the parking lot?
you have strong feelings?
It's a good observation. Never thought of that. We could, I think the trail's 3 inches, and it could
Yeah.
possibly go a little bit thicker.
Probably have to beef it up a little bit, this section.
All right.
That's an existing trail.
Yeah, so we'd have to like overlay it or something.
Or we
but
move
that would be.
Or we
Move
move,
the potties closer, rather than
Yeah.
spending more money on
Yeah.
the trail.
Are you saying move it closer to the
Parking lot?
school parking lot or to the new parking lot?
This one?
Well, there is one by the new parking, correct?
Somewhere in here, I mean, there's
So
just.
she's
nice
saying
little
by the
spot.
school.
Right, that apron is probably a good spot for him.
Let's see, if we go to the next slide. Yes, this parking lot one. So we had talked before about lengthening that as far as we can get it, because there's never enough parking, you know? Was that lengthened from the last time we talked about it?
We didn't have a number the last time, this one does, and then we switched the orientation of it. So I would say in general, it likely looks smaller because we went for the angled parking. But I would say to extend it more than that, we squeeze pretty hard.
Well,
And
is
the-
it possible to push it that way? I mean, well, we have Parkside here, but this entrance isn't built yet, correct? And this
Neither.
one is
Neither of them are.
sort of, okay, I just couldn't figure out what that was. I guess, and then have this closer or something. I just would rather have more parking than less, because if they don't, then they're gonna start parking on the streets, and then we start having the problem of we're parked all over the streets and we can't,
There's no parking there.
but if people can't find parking, you can sign it that, but that doesn't mean people aren't gonna do it when the lot's full and they're coming to their family reunion.
I'm curious if when I know parking on Ironwood is an issue right now because it's a dead end street. When it's a collector, parking won't be an option there. So I'm at least hopeful that we could use overflow of Carver Elementary and Carver Station. I know it's a little bit of a walk, but
quite a bit of a walk for people that are gonna have events.
There's a trail there.
So is there a problem then with moving one of those entrances a little one way or the other if it's not built yet?
I think the east one's probably pretty close to set just based on the topography coming off of the fields there. We could, the west one, now that I think about it, that kind of ties into, here, and if you zoom out to the overview figure, that was more of a function of getting a small turn lane in, a left turn lane. So I think we could maybe move it a little bit, but we're kind of stuck just developing a turn lane there for
Mhm.
eastbound traffic, so that's kind of what dictated that. Actually, I wonder if,
How
I
about
can't
going
remember
to
if there's a left
east
turn going westbound also. I think that might be older geometry. I think there is a left turn lane for westbound Ironwood to southbound River Rock, potentially as well, so it was kind of a balancing act in there of getting everything to fit together, so.
I'd also say the parking at Carver Elementary, like the parking that we're showing here, I would say is more targeted for the pavilion. Where the fields, Carver Elementary is closer than where the pavilion parking would be.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff in there. We've got a skate park, and that's depending on where people live. If it's brand new, I mean, they're gonna be driving the kids there. We've got basketball courts. Not that everyone's not gonna walk, or some people are gonna walk, but not everyone's going to. So we've got the picnic shelter and the skate park, basketball court, the open area with some kite flying taking place. And then the 2 fields, which certainly if you're playing on this left-hand field, you might try and sneak in this lot too. So, and then I can't quite see this, but can you zoom back into the bigger one? If they're coming westbound, how do you want them to get in if it's one way? They're gonna make a U-turn and come back through the left-hand?
No,
Turn right.
You just turn right there.
Turn right here.
No,
No.
Oh,
that's
just turn
right.
right here.
That one,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
It's okay.
Come on, I got in late last night on the plane a little bit. Okay, but anyways, we haven't built those medians. We have a lot of activity in those areas. If there's a way that we can move it this way or that way a little bit and extend it, because we've got the trail and you've got all that grassy area in between. I mean, the trail can be, if it gets stretched this way, the trail can be closer to that.
I think we
Leave it
could
at
add some spots, I just don't want the expectation to be that we're gonna go from 28 to like 40.
Why not?
I just, there's just
No,
not
that's fine,
space
but
for
the
it.
more we can squeak in there, because you know, we've had this before at Bluff Park, we had to build extra parking
We
there.
got it downtown. I mean, let's figure out how
I'd
to
rather
build
overbuild.
parking lots.
Yeah.
Because we need them.
I would push back on that a bit though and say a park isn't for a parking lot.
And there's so much parking in that area. I'll argue that you're going to a park to be physically active. An additional 1,000 steps on your way to get there won't kill you.
Well, at our
I
age,
have
but
a-
when
I
you're
have
younger,
a different take and, I have some feedback too.
Okay,
But I would
let's
like,
Do you want to
let's-
keep going?
Yep.
Christine?
Yep. Anyways, I would like to see a few more tweaks in there if we can make it happen. What does that mean, skate park? The skate park one, can we go to the skate park?
Sure.
On the right-hand side, is this just concept or if one's been built with those trees in the center and the rocks right there?
That's
That's,
the short view.
that's just
That
an
is-
existing skate.
That is, okay. And they don't have any, because kids will go up that ramp, and I'm just afraid of having them like, they're gonna go right into like rock trees. I mean, it's really minor.
911.
It's really minor, but
This is a, maybe this will help the council too, so this is a concept, your next step, you'll see plans and specifications, and so like feedback like that, the broad brush of like parking or being careful about that is the feedback that we need to help Bolton and make prepare the plans and specs.
okay. And then for the old skate park, the existing one, they are a little bit far apart, considering a lot of kids. You know, we're looking at early preteen and early teen years that are going there. A lot of kids, at least here, I know down here, travel up to this one themselves. I'd rather leave this for a little bit and see how it goes than rip it all out right away because it's busy during the summer. Now, if we find that the new one attracts everybody and no one's using it again or anymore, then take it out. But I mean, the concrete pad's not going to change. The concrete pad's there, but that's packed all the time in the summer. So I don't want to just take it out because we got a brand new one when this one can still be in use, especially for maybe more this area than from the bottom of the hill up.
I think that's fine.
I don't know why I wrote down basketball place, so if I remember why I wrote it down, I'll let you know.
All right, Lori, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have some feedback. First, what I really, really, really like is the trail connectivity. I just feel like that's been something that we, want to get more of. So I think that is awesome, and how it loops, connects some of those, and that there's truly loops. For the parking, in my opinion, 28 stalls is not acceptable. I know it's a park, and we all, we maybe pitch our, certain ways we would use it, but I also know that sometimes you're having to drop, a child or whole, or kids off for an activity, and you have a parent meeting, that you gotta be there for 10 minutes. So you're really just parking, dropping off, you wanna quick do your thing or drop off birthday treats, and then you gotta schlep back to the car. Or, when you do have a field, you have your referees, you have, whoever you've invited for extended family, it can really draw a lot of people. I would really like to see a lot more parking spots, even if that means we lose some grass area, or, then, if we don't have much room to lengthen it, then maybe we gotta go to, 3 or 4 rows deep.
Do you have a number in mind?
No, but I don't. But also, just not, the other thing too is I would like to see a larger picnic shelter. Also envision more of a substantial building, or, if there was something that had running water, knowing that, yes, it'd have to be locked and they'd have to reserve it, but just, like not a full kitchen at all, but just something more than, an additional electrical outlets, some type of like sink thing. And that had a little, 1 or 2 walls, so there's a little more protection from elements. On what's presented where you said there's a counter, does that have outlets?
It would,
Okay.
yeah.
So with that all costs money. To me, those are higher priorities. We got the trail taken care of, but the parking and the picnic shelter, as well as bathrooms that are more substantial, I'm not comfortable with the portable bathrooms. I realize, or I think that there's the pros, pros and cons of it is less likely for, people to wreck them? Or is it just cheaper to fix it if there's vandalism?
I can speak to that, so I think, yes, like vandalism, we're experiencing less vandalism
Yeah.
on portables, but the feedback, because that I presented to the team as well, is that it's kind of a budget buster when you think about water and sanitary sewer, and so we're at 1.5, so you could certainly add water and sewer and indoor pieces to that. Your budget would go up, or you could take another amenity away.
So back to the bathrooms. Why portable?
Portable because they're more affordable, and we're spending less time maintaining them, from annual maintenance, from vandalism. We're paying a company to service them, and so it was my opinion that folks were going to prefer an amenity like a basketball court or the outdoor classroom as opposed to having an indoor restroom. And this is probably TMI, but it's like I'd rather use a well-maintained porta potty than going into. Typically, those park restrooms aren't like a super great experience.
You're
looking
for
for
alarms.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I think all of it. I mean, you can do whatever. This is kind of we don't develop kind of parks from the ground up all too often. So, when you look at the scale of the parking lot there at 28 stalls. So if we wanted to get to 60, imagine that parking lot double on that screen and that space. So there's some things to think about. That's not a pro or a con. It's just trying to kind of set the table for what you could expect as it relates to budget and kind of moving those puzzle pieces around, if you will.
Yep. So with that, I don't see a need to do the skate park now, if it has to be years later. And same with the basketball court. To me, those are lower priorities versus the things I mentioned before. And also now kind of seeing some, estimated costs with it. I just have a hard time saying, we're spending $280,000 on a new skate park. Because to me, that's lower down for amenities. And also, and it's just like, we don't know exactly how it's all going to use. Maybe, 3 years it gets used a certain way, and then, things trends shift or, whatever the dynamics are of, who's using it. But those 74 townhomes, and they don't have a community room, I would think that they could possibly benefit from a larger picnic shelter, some type of pavilion with a little more, use, be able to use it a little longer throughout the year, be able to rent it out to host things. So part of it too is just knowing those 74 townhomes are coming in.
Anything else, Lauren?
No.
Can I ask one question on the piggyback on her? So with the parking, the road in front of the townhomes, is that no parking also?
It's private,
That one's private?
so there are some pull-offs for parking. I wouldn't anticipate that there would be parking available there.
Okay. Where's the closest on-street parking to that? If we were just to look at it on the street.
So there's Hartwell in Carver Hills, and then it's River Rock that comes through Timber Creek.
Which one's
That's
River
the
Rock?
one that curves by the red,
Here.
right there,
Okay. Okay. So there would be parking, do your cursor again, show me where there would be residential parking that you would see.
The stretch
Okay.
here.
Okay. The reason I ask is because with Bluff Park, we have issues sometimes, and we used to, especially with soccer down there, that cars would park all the way up Carver Creek Circle, and the residents were our entire street is full of cars for the field, which is in turn why we added onto that parking lot to make it a little larger. I'm not saying double this one, but as I said before, just a few more. But I just wanted to make sure where it was, because I anticipate then people may have to, or may start parking along there, so that's something to.
I have on the parking, is it a viable option to have just something that's, and I don't know the words for it, you know, but that's gravel, you know, not. But I know then too, that's a lot more to maintain, but if it's just an
It
occasional
ends up everywhere.
overflow, okay.
And we wouldn't let any new development come in with a gravel parking lot,
No.
gravel driveway.
Okay, so just more of our
we
standards
have to be
then,
consistent,
okay.
yeah. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Joy, Glenn?
The pavilion, how many people what would we rent it for? Like, how many people?
I think it was 45 to 50.
Oh, really? Okay. That's larger than I thought it would be, but I think it's a good size. I don't have an issue that there's no water. I like that there's electrical. My thought on the bathrooms is, I don't know, I go to a lot of different parks around different cities and stuff like that, and I'm very accustomed to a really nice porta potty, and it's okay. So I'm okay with that route. And then what were my other questions? I like that we're adding other amenities like the basketball, like the pavilion. I like that we're adding a newer skate park because you're right, it is desirable, I guess, in the community considering how busy it is, to expand more. I like the idea of keeping the existing, just because we'll probably have both in heavy utilization. Other than that, I want to ask about the electrical thing that we're going to put a shed around. Is there any way we can use the electrical?
It's not,
It's a bank.
yeah, it's for the
For
electrical
what?
is used for it's the field lighting, correct, Chad?
Yes.
Oh, it's for the field lighting. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
it could have,
Okay.
I think, accommodated the pavilion if we had electrical there.
Okay.
So it's needed, we need it there.
We need it for lighting.
Relocating
for
it,
sure.
I think, was $30,000. We talked
Oh,
about pulling
just
it out
leaving
of
it
that
as
area.
is. Okay, that helps me understand it. And then the 2 fields that we have there today, they're being rented and utilized, right?
Correct.
And parking is at,
Where do people park?
yeah, where do people park?
Carver Elementary on Ironwood, and then at Carver Station.
Okay. And that seems to work okay, other than the parking on Ironwood.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's,
Farther down, how much farther, how much, I mean, I guess they're about the same
Yeah.
size, right?
Yeah,
Right,
so
right.
it's no different really going between where Carver Elementary is or that lot. I mean, I guess I would prefer keeping the lot that's near the pavilion really targeted at the amenities there. Right, we can put signage and say, hey, if this lot is full, Carver Elementary is just down the street, Carver Station's just down the street, there's other places to park. And that it's really targeted for those amenities there, and that for the field, we ask people to try to park at the elementary school.
I love
But
the
they're
thought.
I know we can put signage and whatever, but I would hate to lose open field and or skate park and or basketball court, so we can just put a park shelter in a giant parking lot.
I would not be for that either. I just think, no, I would not be for that.
Right,
I'm just
so,
thinking making
yeah.
it long. Let's just make it a little longer.
Sure, I'm
And if-
okay in optimizing it for the horizontal space that it's in, but
And
I'm
if
not.
we can stretch it, maybe there's an area for like drop-off parking. So if you have
Sure,
something quick, it could be 10-minute parking, just to alleviate some of that crunch.
Yeah.
Sure.
Kind of like a carpool lane.
sure. And the lot that's by Carver Elementary, all that is done, right? That's existing.
Yes.
Right, there's not much we can really change with that. Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I got.
I'm not married to the layout. I'd take the basketball court, put it up to the left. How much, can we encroach
What do you mean?
up
In the
or?
open field?
Which, into the open field in that quadrant? Okay,
Bingo.
got it. Okay, I got it.
I'd take this, I'd put it in the center here because you have a concrete here, you got one here. Why wouldn't you just put one in the middle, extend this out, extend it up, and you can still put your parking area or your picnic area there.
can you say that again?
Yeah.
So,
Did you lose me?
are we losing the open field?
Yes.
I see.
There's an open field, there's an open field, here's an open field, there's open fields. You take this trail, move it into the center of your parking lot. You can extend it down this way,
Extend what?
The parking.
the parking lot. You can pull your parking lot this way, You said this is about max here, and then you can move it up. You put your basketball court up here, and there's still room for your picnic shelter in there. That's just an opinion, though.
Can I give one counter to something I noticed in the parks industry? Is the best thing that happened is having that skate park close to the road where it's visible, because there's less vandalism. So I'm worried if we start tucking, because remember, like, the ages that are using these are gonna be pre-teen to like teen, right? Who tend to, you know, sometimes get a little handy with the spray paint or whatever else. But the closer I think that these things seem visible to the parking lot or still in kind of all together, there's more eyes on it than it being vandalized, rather than, I mean,
You're not moving it really anywhere. It's all laid out in this, you're just moving your basketball court into your open field. You can even slide that skate park down and move your picnic shelter up, and you can almost double your parking lot size. Just from layout.
Anything else?
We need parking. That's always been a problem. People just don't think about. Parking for the fields has always been that way too. We need parking.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I mean, I don't think we should undersize that. I'm just,
the layout with, I mean, for the few, nothing up in the upper area.
so what if we're going along with Glenn's question about the open field, what if the picnic shelter got pushed up and then the parking lot became an L? To give more parking, if we went with removing the open field. This is just a brainstorming.
Yeah. So, I think my thoughts are, I don't know that I want to be in the business of too much rethinking all the work that the Parks Commission has done on this and kind of reconfiguring it. I like the open space. That was definitely something that we gave as a guiding principle for this. So I appreciate that it's not over-programmed. I think that the skate park is cool, and you know, the one in Community Park is right along my walking route, and I go past that at all times of the day, at night even, and it's well utilized. So I like what you're saying, Christy, about see if that draws the kids up there, then let's remove it, but if not, let's keep it for a little bit and just kind of see. Yeah, because who knew? Skate park, big draw, like of all ages, teenagers and even littles on balance bikes and scooters. So I like that. I don't think, as far as the size of the shelter, is it similar to like Community Park? Maybe a little smaller? A little smaller? Okay. So more like the Lions shelter? Lions Park?
Yeah, without
Okay.
the enclosure.
Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out that kind of, I think that that's appropriate. Would we love to have it larger? Sure, absolutely. Are we working within a budget? Yes, absolutely. So that's a budget buster, and so is running water and bathrooms, so I get it. I'll argue that Carver Station has got some really nice, very non-park-like bathrooms that are just on the corner there, and their hours are, they're open significant amounts of time. As far as the parking issue, Christy, I like what you say about trying to, what did you say, squeeze in a few more parking spots. I think if we can, absolutely, but I don't think this is a park that's
And nowhere to
very,
park.
I'm talking.
I got it.
Right, this is a park that's really close to ample parking. I live right by Community Park, so I get the heartburn that overflow parking causes, but that is for 4 hours on 2 nights a week for 9 weeks during the summer. I would say that 90% of the time when I drive past the Community Park parking lot, it's empty. So I have a really hard time with building a parking lot that's gonna be empty the majority of the time. So I think if we can squeeze in a few more parking spaces, absolutely, but I don't think that parking, especially given this location where there's plenty of parking within the, vicinity, and again, I'll argue you are going to either participate or to watch somebody participate in something that's active, that it won't hurt you to walk a little bit to get to the parking lot. And, that said, with the asterisk of we'll have all of the disabled parking spots that we need to have up there, so if there are any issues to that. I'm not too concerned about parking, and I certainly don't want to lose an amenity in favor of the parking.
And anecdotally, when there's parking on Ironwood Drive, I think this is a kind of a both and situation where like Carver Elementary's parking lot is not full. When I've driven by it, the parking on Ironwood is there. It's parking out of opportunity, not out of
Right.
need. And I would, and some people in this room, remember this. That, at one point, probably 8 or 9 years ago, we considered adding parking to Community Park, and people on
That was fun.
Gilfillan were
Crying at that meeting.
very
It might have
concerned
been me
about
too.
that, and so I would just,
No.
I would guess I would just tee up for the council, perhaps the unintended consequences of like those townhomes and having a parking lot and, comparing and contrasting that convenience piece with, I would say, per square mile, we probably have the most parking stalls in the entire city in this area when you combine Carver Elementary and Carver Station. Is it kind of valet parking like it is on Ironwood right now? No, but I do think that's out of opportunity because it is so close. Why wouldn't you park there? It's a dead-end street.
But I also think it kind of shows people are wanting that convenience.
Well, if we're adding these amenities, we're adding more people to that end.
Right.
Right, we're adding more people to that end, period. That's how it works. If we're gonna
Right.
add skate parks and stuff, we're gonna add people.
Yeah, there's also a lot of residential that's within walking distance. That is probably just gonna walk there, right?
Well, I think we all realize that, or if at least my take that I'm getting is that we're okay with adding some more in that length if we can.
Yeah.
So at least we get a few more.
Sure.
I know Lori, you would like more.
I'm fine with 50 stall parking lot though, yeah.
It would be, as a staff, we're gonna need consensus on I hear the kind of the brushes of add more parking, the comment about the porta potty leaving the existing skating rink. I don't know if I hear consensus though on do you wanna change the configuration? Do you wanna make the parking lot larger? Do you wanna grow take the budget up or keep it and remove amenities? We're gonna need that in order to.
I'd like to go back, have that discussion where Glenn was saying moving some things or having the parking, because I think this is our time to, look at making, changes. Yes, the Parks Commission did do spent a lot of time, I was in all those meetings, but it has changed so much even since then. And, I think
Since the park commission signed off?
No,
on this?
not since they signed up, but since the things that they have looked at. And just, they didn't always have a real high level view and who are the future neighbors, like the 74 townhomes. A lot of times we got really into how would that person use it today. So, I guess, I
agree with you.
it was a challenge, I would think anytime, we have a blank slate here and have create a park for community, it is a challenge to come to a consensus.
Yeah, I'm
you know,
gonna go back to,
but-
and you guys have heard me say this before, our parks, we ask these folks to volunteer their time.
Right.
And they put together a plan. I don't think it's our role to
But
second
I've got
guess
one
that.
thing to
their
say.
plan is very guided towards what the engineers and what people present to them.
Right,
But
that's given.
this is our chance, when we're saying, hey, what if we move this, what if we had that? Let's dig into that conversation a little more so we can do it now and not in a couple months. And all of a sudden be like, oh, wait, I just, don't feel good about that, so.
All right, well,
And
this is the time.
Yeah, I don't have a problem digging into it too, and the Parks Commission is awesome. I think they've done a great job. They are advisory and bringing us this plan that we wouldn't have at all. But I think if we're as a council going to make decisions, we should hash them out now. Considering that the Parks Commission presented it this way, that doesn't mean the council in itself might find a tweak here or there. That doesn't invalidate all the hard work that they've done. It doesn't invalidate the plan. The plan is amazing, but I think as council, we have to consider the budget and everything too, and some other thoughts of.
Okay, so what do we wanna see? What do you wanna see?
I have another question about
Yeah, go ahead.
the yellow kite. Is that wetland or is that not wetland?
That's wetland.
The yellow kite,
Where the yellow kite,
that's stormwater, improvements associated with Timber Creek, so it's like filtration and ponding.
No touch.
It can't be.
Yeah, it's approved, yeah, that's, sorry.
No touch.
Yes, it can't be moved, it's done.
all right,
The plan's
it's
approved.
there is what you're telling me. All right.
Karen summed it up. Smith?
Yep, thank you, Erin.
I thought you said Karen at first.
Oof. Oh, no.
Alright,
Yeah.
now the other one is a wetland, to the east.
Yes,
Okay.
I got that. I was more concerned about that particular area. We can't put like our picnic shelter
Oh,
out there.
So I like the new skate park idea. I really think it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's a need. We see the kids using it down here, they're gonna use it up there. And especially in a park system, there's a lot for very young kids to do and there's a lot for us older kids to do, but there's not a lot in that teenage, they're not playing on the playground. So, and I think those two items, the basketball court and the skate park are a great idea. The shelter, when I'm trying to think about the size compared to Lions without the edge on it, how many picnic tables do you envision can fit under this?
I think it's like 8 to 10.
It's showing
There's
8.
It is
There's
48.
8 on the pitch.
I almost wish it was a little bit larger too. I think considering the open field area there, you can have some larger things. I don't know, I don't know the pricing of what that, kind of the extension of it might look like, if it's a little bit or if it's horrendously once you hit the next size, if you are looking at $1 billion. But I think there might be a chance there to have more than just 8 picnic tables.
So, just to kind of help facilitate the
Thank you.
discussion, to take that and then quantify it, we can come back then with a update on what that would cost. So if you said, instead of 8, we'd rather see 12 or 10, if you could quantify that, and if the council builds a consensus on that number, then we can come back with that information.
Mhm.
Same size as community park.
That
I
one
don't
seems
think
really
that's-
big,
yeah, I
that's
think
almost like,
it's
it has an L.
It's a
like-
T to it.
But yeah, I mean, just extend it a little bit so you could get maybe another 4
And
picnic
that's your
tables under
section.
there.
Yeah, some tables.
Yeah.
Extra set of columns, basically.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, engineer.
I see columns.
Okay.
I see.
I see where the people are standing. Otherwise, with all the things that I mentioned for me are all the, I guess, I don't want to say changes, but updates that I would be interested in looking at.
I would advocate for the open lawn that's north of the picnic shelter. I remember when we were looking at Timber Creek and I was just worried about all these townhomes backing up to like lights coming down on some field or something like that. I'm like, ooh, right? And so we have this nice space that's away from like the field lights. And plus I think that that open field will be really heavily used by the adjacent properties, not just these townhomes, but also some of these neighboring homes. And so I really like that openness there that's so close to those townhomes. I'm not sure.
Like a buffer from the busy?
Yeah, and I worry
Good
also,
alliteration.
if I bought a house over in
Good
Timber
alliteration.
Creek and there's a 50 stall parking lot right there, I'd be like, the city spent $1.5 million to put in more parking? We got all this parking at Carver Elementary. I'm just thinking as a neighbor to this park and be like, I would have rather had a bigger picnic shelter. I would rather have a basketball court or something, right? Than more parking. I just think of the neighbors and how they would perceive a bigger parking lot. I'm okay with extending it a little bit if we can, but not creating a significantly
The one good
larger
thing
one.
about putting it in before or as those homes are coming in
You can't make it bigger.
is that once it's there, that's what they know. But it's when you try to expand on it after they're there, that's when they get
Right, but
nervous.
there's still a lot of existing homes that are
I'm
right south.
I am in agreement with you. I like
And
the
there'll
open
be
field.
homeowners in there before we break ground on this.
Oh,
part.
for sure.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would
Anyway.
say that adding another day, if you will, of picnic tables is, I would call a marginal change that we wouldn't need to, there's enough contingency, so we can have that as a to-do if there's, is there consensus among the council that adding another 4 picnic table space would be supported by the council?
Another length of columns, yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, sure.
So then I would tee up portable restrooms versus permanent restrooms. Where does the council land on that?
I'm okay with portable. I'm okay with portable knowing what the price tag of permanent would cost.
I am also okay with that, considering the price tag.
I can make
So-
a compromise.
You're gonna have to, because we've got 3 votes.
That's why I went last.
But thank you,
Okay,
Lori, that was
yeah.
very good.
On just the kind of the type of amenities, so you have basketball, and I won't go one through each of them at a time, but basketball, skate park, and outdoor classroom, picnic shelter are the 4 major amenities. Is there consensus on those 4 major amenities?
Yeah. Yes. The other thing that I was gonna say that I like about this park is I think it skews a little older, which I think, as considering myself in that age group, like, you wanna play cornhole, you wanna play ping pong, this is the park for you. There's not a swing set with a baby swing in it, so I think that makes it unique in itself.
And then the configuration of the amenities, where they're actually physically located in the park, do we have
Yeah.
consensus on those?
I'm fine with that.
I would like to explore for the idea of having more parking spaces. I mean, that's it.
But I think we already landed on,
We haven't really landed
Do
on
we
the
have
number,
3
it's just
folks?
more about putting more in.
Christy, you're good on parking.
Oh,
Well, scooching, yeah,
The scooching up.
yes, we want to lengthen the one that we have.
Didn't
Yes.
you say scooch?
I might have
Earlier?
said something, I don't, scooch isn't mine, but something smush it, probably said smush it closer.
Okay.
Um,
And Joy, are you good with?
Yeah, I'm good with the smooching.
Okay, so
Smushy.
Smushy.
Smooching and smooching, yes.
Okay, so I think that we have a consensus, we have a majority that we are good with the size of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So with
There was
that,
a brief discussion on like a drop-off. Does that seem something you will
I think it's gonna depend on
entertain and then just see where it happens?
if you value more spots or the drop off. We can explore both options.
And there is, I don't know if you can zoom in on that, because we talked about that. If you see where that trailhead piece is there, so
Yeah.
we had talked about creating a connection there, so if you can imagine, we might be able to do something where there's a
Oh.
simple drop off
Yeah.
there.
I like that idea.
And hear from Glenn on this, so if we kind of look for opportunities to make it larger within its, in the same footprint, do we have consensus on that from the group?
What do you mean by larger within the same footprint?
Lengthening,
Lengthening,
lengthening the parking lot to get more spots.
lengthening, kind of pushing and pulling the.
Without adding more aisles and like going another tier
That's fine.
north.
Yeah.
Cause at some point, you're just gonna have to add another aisle and another parking
Yeah.
bay, is really what it
No,
comes down to.
I think that just lengthening it. Hi, Mike,
East, west.
what can we do for you?
no, we're good. So, Mike, if you want, we're having a meeting, but if you're welcome, it's an open meeting, so you're welcome to sit down by chat if you wanna come in for the meeting. So,
Oops, sorry.
go ahead.
So I'm hearing okay on the configuration, obviously people have different points of view, but consensus is we're gonna try to extend and push and pull.
Get more parking.
Have that extended that drop off area, and then, other than those 4 pieces, we're gonna keep that existing skate park until we have the data that suggests that we should do something different. And we're gonna find a better spot for the satellite restrooms that's closer to the parking
Yeah.
lot.
Let's remember that.
Is there anything that I missed or anything that we should have covered that we didn't?
Oh, can't think of anything else. Right,
I like it.
Forgot about that 40-41 thing.
I know.
we're ready to move on. Okay,
So, Erin, would you mind just kind of sharing the next steps as far as community engagement,
Sure.
et cetera, schedule?
So we are planning to hold an open house on November 17th to share this information with the community. So we'll have this version available. It's available on the city website now. The images have all been updated with that information. So if anyone's watching, if they have feedback, my email is available there, or give me a call. And then we'll come back with that feedback to the council for plans and specs likely this winter. Construction to begin spring 2022.
would we be able to have it updated based on the feedback that you shared tonight by November 17th?
I'm gonna say it might be tight to get like the parking count, but we can say we're actively working on it.
Yeah, and the piece is, it's a good question, is like, this is conceptual, so we'll make sure to note that, and if there's questions related to that, that'd be an opportunity for us to say, well, that's
Okay.
a similar point to what the council talked about.
Do you think we should be putting it out though to the public, kind of landed on where we all talked about, rather than saying
That's what
it's kind of this one, but then it might be that one? That makes me a little, I'd rather present to them what we think is, this is what we're all landed on, right? The Parks Commission, the council has landed here, rather than saying this is conceptual, we might change this, we might change that.
One thing though, which is nice, then why are you having the open house if you already made all those decisions? Where this is like, we're having the open house while we're in the concept plan.
Because I would like the residents then to look at our decisions and say,
Oh.
nope, what about this, what about that? So that we're not trying to weed through two, because if we haven't landed and said, hey, here's where we've all come to. I would rather have them look at that plan and tell us what their thoughts might be.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I mean, we'll show that extra bay, and I think we can maneuver that parking lot. I think residents will maybe talk about the quantity, but the good details that the council talked about tonight, I don't think they'll get that granular. And so I think that concept, I think that'll get us there without being a huge departure, because we're talking about a drop-off lane, or probably, even though we spend some time on, we're probably talking about maybe a half a dozen additional spots. There's not a lot of ground to make up there as far as space, so I think it'll be hard to differentiate. And we can show that 6. I guess maybe what I'm asking is, do you want us to delay the open house to kind of get approval on that conceptual kind of maneuvering that we're gonna do with the parking lot?
Is there a reason that it has to come earlier than waiting for that?
We need to move pretty fast at this if we want to go to construction.
If we want to get good construction pricing, we want to be able to go for,
When are we going for bids then?
as soon as we can.
I mean, if you want to take a look at it, you can make those subtle changes during the plans and specifications phase. I think the question you should ask yourself, or the council should ask, is, do you want to get feedback on those subtle changes from residents, or give them an opportunity to kind of dig with them? That I would offer that they're not going to have the same vantage point that you do, and so I don't think those comments are going to be significant in the grand scheme of things. But again, that's just my opinion.
I do want to say too, if I said planning commission, I meant Parks Commission, obviously. I can't remember which one I said, but Parks Commission, council. To me, I'd rather have it a little bit, like I said, settled on and visually there of what the Parks Commission and the council has landed on. If everyone feels differently, just.
I'm hearing you guys seem pretty urgent in getting this done sooner rather than later, so.
Can I pause that? Because I don't, we have these opportunities come up, not, even annually, and so I don't want to leave the council with the impression that you have to hurry up and decide. And so if you don't feel comfortable, don't get this sense of urgency that you have to decide tonight. And we can certainly show you the updated concept. It's just a matter of the thing, and Aaron is probably feeling like the pressure that I put on, is that I think if we miss a window, I wouldn't want to do the open house in like after Thanksgiving and into the holiday season. I'd want to wait till January, because I just think we lose a whole group of interested parties. And so that's the pressure that you're hearing from here.
No, I get it. If there's a desire to have the open house sooner rather than later, I would hope that the concept, that the sketches, for kind of in my mind, what's a minor, make the shelter a little longer, make the parking lot a little longer. I'd hope that could get done in a couple of weeks, but I would imagine that you've got boards and stuff that you're putting together, so.
It's just the piece of, we next meet on the 15th, and we're scheduling the open house for the 17th. There's not a lot of things you can do with that space. We're gonna make it a little longer.
Yeah.
You're gonna pick up some stalls.
I don't think we need to see it again.
Is there
if that's what you're
something
thinking of.
that you want to make sure happens a certain way? I guess that's maybe a better question.
Well, we haven't changed it a whole lot, so for me, I guess I don't know why we couldn't have something that's a little more concrete of what we talked about for the next meeting.
We can.
Okay. Something I'm missing here.
No, and I was gonna say, I don't know that I need to see it again before the open house, just as long
I don't
as the
think we-
sketch is updated.
But
by
I
the
feel
17th.
fine with it, yes, yes.
You wanna say at the next,
I,
sorry.
I feel comfortable that you guys have the vision of what we have come to agreeance on, or we've come to a meeting of the minds on tonight.
Yes.
To put that together before the open house, because then if we can take any feedback from that, and whatever maybe didn't get done quite to what we thought.
You're not asking to see this again on the
Okay.
15th.
I don't need to see them.
Okay. I was
That
thinking
was
that,
our question.
I was
Okay.
thinking
Yeah,
that you
that's a
wanted
good
to approve
clarifier.
a next concept the 15th, and I didn't think we could turn it around in time
Yeah, no.
the 17th.
I would just like it to look as much like we talked about at the actual open house.
We can do that.
Okay, okay.
That's way less.
Good, we got there.
Okay.
That was a long time to get there, we got it.
Is the open gonna be here?
We're gonna try virtual. We had really good,
Oh, okay.
through COVID, we got a lot more participation on virtual events, so we'll give it a try. If nobody shows up, I think we could talk about other avenues, but we're gonna give it a try.
Good. Okay, thank you. That was a good discussion and longer than I thought it would be. I think we have about 25 minutes. Can we at least get a start on the housing plan? Are you comfortable with that?
Let's be optimistic.
Okay, okay. That's the short one. Okay, housing action plan, Ms. Smith.
So I don't have any slides since it was more of a document that needed to be worked through. But we wanted to bring this back as part of the strategic plan, part of the discussion we had with the CDA on July 19th, where they brought us a plethora of really good information. So some goals of the housing action plan. First was to memorialize some of the things that we learned through our work with the CDA, just so we have shared language, shared understanding of what we know, what we don't know at this point. The goals of the housing action plan, we're hoping that residents can read it as something that we learned and something we can share with them to say, this is what we saw, this is what we heard. Another one is just the commitment by staff and council members that when we say affordable housing, we all are trying to refer to the same thing. I know the mechanics can get tricky, but we're all working towards the same language. And then third, I think, is the biggest goal is that it's a tool for staff to have with developers. So when a developer comes in and says, hey, I want to start a project, they often ask some really aggressive questions of like, what fees can you waive day one? And it's like, well, nothing. Why would we do that?
What are you doing?
Whereas if we have some of these tools adopted, we can say, if you want this fee waived, you'll need to provide X, Y, Z. So it creates a discussion for us that can have some framework from the city council that we can bring to you with some additional information. So working through the housing action plan, first is definition and acronyms, mostly derived from the CDA's presentation, just so again, we have shared language. Where we started are the things that we learned. So I think that collectively, I'll speak for myself, I think that I had a skewed vision of what affordable housing meant necessarily, because I think it means different things for different people. What's affordable for one family is usually not for the next 10. So finding that shared just vision and discussion about it. And something that I think that we all know is that the Carver market is strong and it is fierce right now. And we don't control a lot of that. So the market drives those prices. We require infrastructure. There's not much we can do to have wiggle room there, but there might be some programs that we could help facilitate some affordable housing. What we learned, again, affordable housing likely changes based on your own home ownership status. Housing goals, I think, were part of the comp plan, but then also our discussion here. So I think the big thing that we all took away is that we're looking for more housing choice. So above the Carver market, below the Carver market. We have kind of that 350 to 450 pretty locked in right now, so what can we get below and above? And then I think something that's really important about this discussion is having affordable housing allows people to spend their money elsewhere. So usually in the community that they live. Some nitty-gritty information about residential conditions, and then strategies and commitments and the tools, which I think we'll have a good discussion about with this group. So I'll open it up. Questions, comments, discussions?
I really like that you detailed the existing residential conditions, because I'd like to have sort of a line in the sand of here's where we are today. Because it'd be great to track, right, over time as we move forward in our plans. On the housing stock affordability, can you just add to the bullets there below what those units represent out of the total housing units?
Sure.
So we can say.
The type of unit?
Yeah, so the
Like a
30% AMI or less is 24 units and that's X percent of the total. That's what I mean.
Oh, X% of 1612.
Yes. Right, what percentage do we have in these categories? Because I envision us in the future maybe measuring percentages versus maybe number of units. And maybe trying to improve percentages. That was my point. Okay, sorry, we're all waiting, yeah. Focus on the measurements.
All right, Christy, you wanna go next?
No, I think
Okay,
those were-
Glenn, anything from you?
I just wanna make sure that for any type of housing that we have, I just wanna make sure we have all the infrastructure for it.
Okay. Anything related to affordable housing?
Nope.
Okay, Lori?
No, I think this is super helpful, just summarizes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you mind?
Nope, I said I'd go last.
Let's see, so I'm down under strategies and commitments. Encourage or require residential developers to include affordable housing as part of their development proposals. I think we're gonna have to require if we really wanna see, cause I mean, since we've all been sitting in city council, how, can anybody tell me one developer that's come in and had an affordable proposal, you know, or even
Carthage.
If I'm not
Red.
mistaken, Lennar
Actually,
has,
you're right.
if I'm not mistaken, Lennar has what is it, in one development, or in each development, they will donate a house to a veteran, if I'm not mistaken.
Lennar will?
I don't think
Yes.
that that's happened in Carver,
So Courtney,
because I would imagine they do media on that.
Oh, yeah, they would,
I don't know that we've.
but they've done it in a vast majority of their projects. Maybe there's.
but we can't count on that, it's not
No.
something that we
No.
control, unfortunately. It's nice if they do it, but.
So I just think, and I think that that's gonna take a consensus from the council as to what that means, but it, you know, you guys have heard me ask the developers when they come in, like, what's your affordability component? And they're,
You're reading my mind. I'm gonna talk before you, Brendan. I wanna talk with Courtney, well, everyone, but this is very specific. I was going to bring this up later this evening at the next meeting. And I've been thinking about this all day. At every meeting that we have a developer come in, Courtney's question, but it's a question that would come from me as well. Well, how many of these are going to fall in this category of affordable housing? The answer is always none. And then we say, oh, darn it, we're not happy.
or they say, well,
But we
we've
can't-
got $350,000 townhomes that are coming in, or whatever.
Right,
So-
but we say that we're disappointed in it, we say that we want
Yes.
something else, but we don't ever do anything. And we don't have any processes in place to do anything. So, and Courtney, like I said, you asked the question, I would ask the same question, and like I said, today I was just thinking about that, I'm like, tonight Courtney's gonna say, do you have any homes that are coming in at this price? Or what's your price point gonna be? And then we're all gonna go, but there's nothing
Right.
to do about it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the building blocks of,
Yeah,
we got it.
I love this, and I'm glad this is coming out, because I think if we want to do these things, then we have to draw that line in the sand, and I'm glad you said it,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's not gonna happen if we don't make it.
So just a question, how are you defining, and Chrissy, how are you defining affordable housing?
I think it's using the definitions that are in here of affordable, the
Okay.
30% AMI, the 20%. And I'm not saying that we need to see a development that is all 60% AMI or less, or whatever it is, but I think that, and I need to do a little bit more homework, but doesn't Edina have a program where they demand that there's a certain percentage of affordable and they have certain parameters, or the
They-
developer puts money into kind of a fund that they save for affordable housing so that they can do their own developments?
And that ties in with some of like the LCDA funding.
Right.
They often can say, we're matching that project, which ties into the LCDA.
Courtney, we're on the
funding.
same wavelength, because I feel the same thing, I'm not saying that we're gonna tell a developer 60%, but why is it not 5 or 2 or whatever that comes out to be of your development?
Well, 60% AMI,
Right.
the income thresholds.
But
yeah, yes.
you know, why are we not saying there's this much percentage, and it can be whatever percentage of the development? Like, why don't we say, if we can, legally, I don't know, legal counsel's not around, but to say, what, you know, you're gonna put in 100 houses of, if you have 100%, this percentage need to be, 3% of them need to be at this, 4, 5, 7, 19, I don't, whatever that magic number is.
And I think that this is a bigger conversation, but it's a sliding scale in my mind. We start by 1% of new developments for however many years and then we wrap it up. And I think, that the presentation by the CDA was so good to know that we could do something like kind of what I'm loosely referring to as the Edina model, or we could do some of the examples that she laid out. So I think that that's great. My other question that I had is, you talked about TIF as a tool. How does that look like? What does that look like for residential development?
So to qualify for a TIF district, you would need to commit a certain number of units to being affordable for the life of the TIF.
Like what we did for Carver
Ridge,
Ridge?
correct.
Okay.
So you would, in some cases, use that TIF to fund some, the adjacent infrastructure to bring down the.
But for single-family residential, those folks, what are they paying for property taxes?
Go ahead. See, I want to see what you're gonna say and then I'll add.
I wasn't gonna speak to that, so I
Okay.
don't know the answer to the property taxes.
Okay,
And I'm not sure in our market, we would offer a TIF district for single-family residential.
okay.
Well, and that's the part where I just wanna make sure that we're connecting expectations, because I'm not familiar, and kind of alluding to what Aaron mentioned, because we've talked a lot about with the council, like trying to find that 202 or 275 single-family home. For me, that's housing choice.
Yeah.
It's not affordability under what we're putting into here. We're not gonna be able to require someone to provide a large lot, single-family home for 275,000. There isn't a mechanism that's available to cities to require that or to kind of manufacture that, if you will. We're talking about, in most cases, townhomes, duplexes, apartments. And so I just wanna, because we've talked about that, and sometimes, myself included, the topics can kind of interconnect. And so I wanna make sure I understand, just so that we are able to deliver on this, that when you say affordable housing, that you mean kind of the clinical definition of AMI. Because, the example that Christy brought up was a really good one with, when you bring up, like, are there any affordable units in there, in, like, the meadows? Well, there's not an apparatus that we use that would make them compelled to do that. And the market is dictating that, and we can't. There is not an economic development tool that would reduce the price of that by 200,000, because we need to be able to show that it's connected to AMI, not just we want to provide a different price point for somebody. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that distinction and make sure that the council is on the same page, and if not, how should we change this plan, etc. Am I making sense?
Okay, so.
No,
Mostly.
can I just,
Yeah.
while you're doodling, I get that, and we've talked about this at length before, so I get that, and I understand that these 3,000 to 4,000 square foot homes are not going to be like 450, 450, 450, 250. Like, that's not gonna happen, and that's not realistic. And I also, who was it? You guys, I think it was Brenda Good who mentioned that why should a brand new home, why do people need a brand new home as a first home? And I get that as well, but I think that's why this is so tricky, is because I don't know what the formula is for this to have that affordable housing. It's called naturally occurring affordable housing for a reason, is because it's here and it's hard to expand upon. So I get that, but I appreciate you bringing that up again.
Can I add one comment to that?
Yeah.
So we're thinking new construction. I know largely across the group, the land trust was an interesting idea.
Yes.
So that would be a way to get a single family home. Sure. Maybe in one of these developments, probably not brand new, potentially, but a single family home that could bring the price down to affordable. Instead of saying, oh, you meet this income requirement, it's apartments only. To be able to say we
Yeah.
have 3 land trust homes throughout the community.
So when you say likely not new, the land trust would buy an existing home.
I would say that's more likely with their budget constraints.
Okay. Did you?
So when we're talking about, you're talking about the Edina model, we'll just go with that. So can you say that again, kind of, so they in their developments, they have a certain number of homes
I
that
know
are.
just enough to be dangerous.
Right, but
So-
it'd be just enough to be dangerous.
I believe it's a
Good
requirement
phone friend.
that a certain percentage of a development needs to be affordable. If they can't demonstrate it in that project, they have to pay an X amount of dollars into an affordable housing
Okay.
fund that the city holds to work on affordable projects.
The
So they
political-
can,
Oh, sorry.
so they can require a certain number of, we'll just say lots to be it, but it has to technically meet their AMI standards, not, we just don't choose what we think is a great
Correct.
price point. That's
Yes.
the overall of this
Yeah.
whole
Correct.
conversation, right?
And
So make sure that
I'll also add that they have an arm that we probably don't have right now, that they work on affordable housing pretty proactively, where at this point we're asking for it, where they're working on it actively as a city.
I like working on it actively. My other question, I'm sorry, if you guys have more questions on that.
Come on, go ahead.
Okay. When we're looking at the housing stock affordability, and we have the percentage, and then we have the bullet points in the next, over the, say, 2019, here was the median household, then the average cost of this, the average cost. So, when you say the average cost of the home, does this mean we're talking lot, we're talking home, all of it together?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I can add that too.
Okay. It just wasn't clear to me initially. Not that everyone else looks at it and thinks of lot and home separately, but.
All right. Go
If
ahead.
it's okay with, I'd kind of like to, in a order, I think Lori and Joy are going to be done at the
Yep.
next meeting. I'd kind of, before the council adopts this, I feel like there's more runway here to kind of have a conversation about, because you've spent a considerable amount of time. It's a major issue within the community. We get lots of development applications. I don't want to feel scrunched for time, and I know we're getting to the end, so I'd like to bring this back to another work session just to kind of go over it, have you maybe absorb it, and then kind of go over it again at another work session before you bring it back, if you're okay with that. Because I feel a little bit rushed. I know that's just a feeling, so maybe you don't feel that same way. But
I'm okay with it. I think it's a good idea, but I'm feeling like I'm done.
Yeah, like
I
I feel like
said all
I have
this.
enough information, I don't feel like I'll have a ton more questions. I do have like 2 quick questions.
You're, oh, go ahead then.
So we're coming up with a plan, but we will adopt it
Correct.
as a policy.
So this is one of the building blocks, and then as we continue down the path of working through these things, there might be policies that we adopt, so.
Would the policy like enhance it, or like this will kind of grow bigger? And this,
No, it would be a policy. This isn't a policy.
This is just a plan, so the
This is-
policy
okay.
would say, if you can give us 4 units of affordable housing, we will waive your sewer connection
Okay.
fee. That's work that we would do collectively, that's not part of this. plan.
okay,
We haven't talked about the tools, right, at the bottom.
okay.
I mean, that's
It's
what we
just
really
more having
haven't.
common language and that we want to move forward and
Right,
have
so the
some
tools
type of
create policy.
policy.
Yes.
Okay. Is this a little bit like then like parkification, where, okay, if you're not gonna put the park, within your development, then let's set aside money and then we as the city will be stewards of that. Like what's,
It can be, like the Edina.
It's not listed in our current tools.
okay.
The
It is
Edina
fun.
method would be a good way to think about that. I'm not sure at Carver's capacity that we would be able to do a program at that level. I think we could start small, maybe build into those things. I think it would be more policies of if you give, we give.
Yeah.
If you don't want either, you don't get the benefit.
So Brent, when you're saying to do this, come back, do a little more work on this and come back, are you envisioning then adding some more of those tools before it comes back? Because if you want to do that, I would be happy to look,
Well-
kind of go through it again, but.
I don't think we've spent time kind of running through what these tools are and how they apply, and like to use the Edina model there. I mean, that's a very complex model that I'm only familiar with 1 or maybe 2 other cities using, and when you are taking that money in, then you have a responsibility to spend it, and I don't know if we create enough like money by volume to actually do a project on our own. So like that is in kind of one bucket. The other bucket is I don't feel like we're in a position where we use the Gilbert property. They come in, let's say they're gonna build $650,000 homes, you know, I'm not sure I feel from the council that you wouldn't be wondering why we couldn't get them to build $300,000 homes on one of the lots. I'm not feeling like I'm hearing that, and maybe I'm missing that. But
Say that again. You think we're gonna ask? Or you think we don't understand why they can't do that?
I feel like you'll want that, and I'm not sure I have the tools, our team has the tools to like deliver on that, because I'm not sure we're on the same page. Because there's a big piece of this AMI, and then there's another piece of like a $300,000 home. And there's not a tool out there that I'm familiar with that kind of arbitrarily would bring down a home to fit anyone. You know, all of us are gonna have individual feelings on what an affordable single-family home is. And if we pick 300,000, because I'm just using that number because we've talked about it a lot. Like, I want to make sure that we can deliver on what you're asking, and I'm not sure that I know what you're asking for right now.
Well, what I would like to see is, I don't expect the next development to come in that this is gonna be ready to go, but if we never get started, we never get started. So I'd like to look at some tools on how we can do it, like we have the land trust in here, but maybe, you know, Edina has this way of doing things. That doesn't mean we have to take A through Z of what Edina is doing, or can we pick pieces of it that are gonna work for us? Maybe we can't, maybe it has to be all or nothing, I don't know that yet. But I would like to see some options about how we can look and doing this in the future, so that we're not, suddenly we're built out and we think, oh, well, never happened.
Right, and that's why I want to continue the discussion. There's not we're not crunched for time, to your point. Like, we can bring back some of these additional examples of tools and how they're applied and the projects and results that they've come up with. And so I feel like there's a little bit more space, you know, and I'd kind of like to talk about like how our naturally occurring affordable housing has come to be. If you look at where it's like quote unquote is at, it's the downtown, maybe Eagle Ridge, and maybe the Dietrich addition. Well, those are some of the oldest existing stock, and so, you know, I would advocate that, you know, like the neighborhood that I live in 20 years, people are going to be talking about that being quote unquote naturally occurring affordable because of where we were at 20 years from now. I think there's a lot more to talk about. The council's talked about it. Again, you're taking the lead. I just think this is interwoven between a lot of things that we do.
I think there's part of it though that our city of Carver, village of Carver was so small that our natural occurring affordable housing is a really small area because we were small for a really, really long time. So where Chaska may have some more of that, but because those neighborhoods are aging out, but they had more of them.
Yeah, I think what I hear you saying, and you're maybe not saying it as directly, is when we think of development, we think of new homes and holes being dug in the ground and homes being built from scratch. Affordable housing will not look like that ever. But I think I kind of get stuck in that trap a little bit too, because that's our frame of reference of development in Carver, right? We're building bigger, pricier homes because that's what the market allows for. So it is kind of figuring out what those land trust options are with existing homes, and that's a trap that I fall into a little bit, is thinking of development, new homes, affordability. That's not going to happen, but seeing what our other options are and what that means. And yes, it might not be the Edina model because we do not have the value coming in, but you're right, like you gotta walk before you run, and if we don't start planning now, we'll never get there.
And I support it.
I don't mean it that you don't.
When I think of affordable housing, I think of the Carver Crossing project.
Yeah.
And I just want to be sure that when you're saying affordable housing, you're thinking the same thing. And if you're not, then I want to know what that is and be able to like react to it, because I feel like this document, when it talks about affordable housing, it's talking about projects like Carver Crossing.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that that's where the five of you are all at, because I want to make sure that when you're asking for something that we can deliver it to you.
But why is the AMI, when we talk about the affordable housing, so we've got the AMI percentage, bulleted out, we can't land anywhere but the lowest one when we're looking at this? I mean,
Well, the Carver Crossing is 60% AMI, so that, I mean, that's a higher tier.
yeah, wait, hold on.
So I think what you're saying is,
So
for
like,
a single-family home, we're not gonna hit 60 to 80% AMI.
Right,
Right.
Right.
and I just wanna make sure, cause 6 months from now, when maybe we've kind of forgotten about it and we're kind of bringing it up, if you say, well, why aren't we at this $300,000 home?
Yeah, it's just.
I wanna make sure we can deliver that, because that's,
yes,
the best way for us to do that is to make sure we know what you're asking for, and then for us to tell you whether we can do it or not.
Do you understand that, Joy?
Yeah.
Do you understand that, Glenn?
Yes.
Christie?
we get it.
Lori? I understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I just ask one thing while we're looking at that? You break down, you gave us the median household income is almost 115. Could you break that down to what the 30% AMI is and what that means in a rent payment or
Yeah.
a house value? Because that's a lot of math. So,
I feel like we need a table. A
yeah,
couple
just to
columns.
be able to like look at that so that we know what that
Yeah.
means. And I think that hopefully that'll keep us out of that trap of
Yeah.
Are you talking in terms of like a mortgage payment?
like a rent
Rent
payment
mortgage. Or
and a
rent payment.
house.
Yes.
Like rent mortgage or like a house value, what that means.
To not be cost burdened.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, within that, because 50 to 60% of AMI and then, what is it, rent or mortgage, 30%,
Yep.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did a similar exercise for like Carver Crossing, because some of their rents were like $900, which was similar to what a mortgage or rent payment would be with some of the Spring Creek townhomes.
Right, I remember that.
So that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see it. Any other questions, thoughts?
Somebody's had to have done this before somewhere in this country. We're not that, you know what I mean? There's gotta be something we can find somewhere.
No, I appreciate it. It's a question to continue this conversation, so thank you.
Okay.
City manager's report, do you want to wait?
I don't have anything.
Okay,
Oh,
council reports, is it okay if we wait and do that during our meeting?
sure.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Councilmember McKnight.
I'll second.
And a second, sorry, I heard Christie first. Second by Councilmember Mock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion